From WBBZ-TV Sports, it's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody, with Janelle Sabin and Hall of Fame bowler Sue Novoitsky. My name is Paul Peck. We all survived, right? We all survived week 1 at Mallwitz's Island Lanes.
It's week 4 we have to worry about. We're okay right now.
Yeah, I know. I just want to make sure. I want to check, because that's always a question when we come here. We survived it, and so did the Grand Island bowlers. Andy Moran won our first 2 matches, Mike Johnson our third, so it's Mike Johnson returning as our champion today. What is it about the guys that bowl here that helps them win?
Well, I think it's, comfort level, of course, but it's like every week has a theme. And last week was the theme of the Grand Island bowlers. This week is the theme of the left-handers, because we haven't seen a left-hander yet. Neither has Mike Johnson. And they're starting from scratch. They haven't seen transition, so they're going to transition it themselves. And then we follow up with Jayson Schubbe, who has been one of our really strongest bowlers the last few months. So it's going to be such an exciting week, really.
Yeah, Andy Redick, Brandon Korczykowski, Jayson Schubbe, none of them are Grand Island regulars, so we'll see things potentially change unless Mike Johnson wants to make sure they don't change.
Yeah, and I mean, he put up really big scores against Andy last week, so you never know what'll happen.
All right, I couldn't say it any better. We never really know what's going to happen, which is why you have to stick around, and it's why we are ready and set to get rolling. So here we go. It's Mike Johnson against Andy Rettig to get us started here. Week 2 at Mallwitz's Island Lanes on Grand Island. It might cost you a little bit to get here, but it is worth it for the fun and the bowling, for that matter.
That's true.
Now, it doesn't cost Mike Johnson anything because he lives here, so maybe that's an advantage. And he will start off with a spare opportunity. 8th appearance on Beat the Champ for Mike Johnson. 7 wins against 4 losses, coming off that victory over fellow Grand Islander Andy Moran at the end of last week's show. I like the stylish bowling ball there, the spare ball. Look at that thing.
I know, that's where you can get a little
Why do you feel like that was like at the bottom of Mike Mallwitz's basement or something, and he said, hey, I got this ball for you that he's been trying to get rid of for a while.
Sure, I'll take it off your hands. I don't care.
Sure, absolutely. All right, so here's Andy Rettig, 15th appearance on Beat the Champ, one of our best bowlers throughout the 5-year run of our show. 15 wins against only 9 losses for Andy Rettig. And a late fall on the 7-pin gets him a strike. Top 10 in victories here in the history of Beat the Champ for Andy Rettig.
And we don't have a lot of them, but the handful of left-handers that we see on a regular basis are just such strong players. Pat Breck, he's right up there.
Yep.
And, Andy and, Brandon we don't see as much, but, I think he comes and goes as far as the qualifying goes. He's another great left-hander. Sure. And so we saw Ryan Kress last week.
Yep. So as you pointed out, first lefty we've seen. So how is that different? What advantages would Andy have because nobody else has been on that side? Or what challenges is Andy going to face? So something else Mike has to deal with from his opponent.
Right, and that's a great point, because sometimes fresh oil is good, and sometimes fresh oil is tougher. And Andy being the first one out on the left-hand side, on a house shot, he should be just fine. So he's in a good spot. Like we always say, the champion, the champ always has a slight disadvantage because he's already experiencing change.
Yep. Mike put up a 258 in defeating Andy Moran, which prompted Andy Moran to, when I asked him what happened in the match, he said, I ran into a buzzsaw. So now we've added buzzsaw to the long list of Mike Johnson nicknames.
But the one thing you're going to see is this is really just Mike's shot. The players so far have been starting out in the same area, so they throw it relatively the same. They're using the same part of the lane, so they were breaking them down every time somebody was up on the lanes. Now it's just Mike's shot. He doesn't have anybody playing there with him at this point, so the breakdown will be a little bit slower than it would have been if he had two right-handers playing the same spot.
All right, the explanation, if you're just tuning in, you're looking at the graphic, you're like, why do they call them house shoes? If you were with us last week, you know the story that Mike Mallwitz told of he forgot his shoes, he had to rent shoes, and then wound up going and winning the tournament. So ever since then, he's been Mike House Shoes Johnson.
Right, it's not because there's a big number in the back of his shoe and it's red, white, and blue. He really does have his own shoes.
That's got to be a very serious nickname if we're going to put it on our graphic on the show, because you know there's only a few of our Beat the Champ bowlers like Mike and Rocket Rob Piccoli that have earned the graphic.
That's true.
Have earned the lower third nickname graphic. I don't know if Andy has one or not. We can ask Andy if there's a nickname that Andy has at all. So.
Well, it would have to be something to do with his Homeland Security
That's
position.
what I was thinking of, the Andy the Protector, you know.
I love it.
You know, the Homeland Hero, you know. We'll work on that. So. If Andy wins this match, we will ask him to come up with a nickname for the next show. Last time we got Andy on our show, it was here in October when we were last here at Mallwitz's Island Lanes. Andy won 2 in a row and then wound up losing to Rob Piccoli after those 2 victories, as you get a look at Janelle and the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard early on through 3 frames of this one. So clearly this is a place that Andy likes. He bowls well here. He qualified last time, qualified this time. Got a little lucky bounce and a little fist pump from Andy because he knew that was a little luck on that one.
Yeah, well, that ball went high, and on the right lane, he was actually a hair light. So they do seem to be a little bit different on the left.
So Mike Johnson toes the line in frame number 4.
Thought so. Nice shot.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ.
Instant replay on Beat the Champ is brought to you by Transit Lanes and Keglers. Join us for bowling, food, and drinks.
Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
Well, Andy's had 2 doubles already, 1 and 2, 4 and 5. Got a chance to do it here in 7 and 8.
This is the lane that hooks up a little bit for him. He's going to have to make a move on this one.
Again, a lot of movement with the 7-pin, but not quite enough. And while we're all watching the 7-pin wobble, another pin was rolling over there, and you wondered if that was going to take it out.
Big spare here.
Yep.
But now Mike has an opportunity again
Right.
to come up and double and go ahead. So the momentum just keeps switching from one to the other.
Spare, strike, spare in 6, 7, and 8 for Andy Rettig. And now, once again, can Mike Johnson take control of this one? This has been one of the tighter matches we've had this late into things in our second week, 4th match here at Mallwitz's Island Lanes.
That's his good lane too, so
Yeah.
that's the one you want to make sure you strike on.
50 career 300 games for Mike Johnson, 24 career 800 series with a high of 857.
I wonder how many of those were here.
I was thinking the same thing. 40 of them, maybe. Not that Mike doesn't bowl other places, but
Well, I do
he bowls
believe
mostly here.
he shot 800 against my team at Transit when he filled in as a sub. And we were like, why did you have to sub today?
Yeah, no kidding.
So I know they're not all here. Well, this is going to come.
As Mike Johnson gets set to roll in the 9th frame. He's got his wife Renee cheering him on here. And he's got all the Mallwitz gang cheering him on as well.
Yep, the 9th foundation frame. In this particular instance, that's exactly what this is.
Good strike for Mike Johnson
So
in the 9th frame.
What that strike did was to guarantee that he could not be shut out. because his one pin advantage will come into play. Regardless of what Andy does here, Mike can match it and not lose.
So now the pressure rolls right back onto Andy Rettig for his 9th frame.
Great shot.
And how's that for answering the bell?
All right, well, they did their jobs in the 9th.
Yes, they did, didn't they? How about laying the foundation, as you said, both guys. So now Andy Rettig will try to post up the kind of score that Mike Johnson can't match up to as we approach the 10th frame on the Castellone scoreboard. The quietest it will ever be in Island Lanes.
Oh.
There must be a special at the bar for it to be that quiet in here.
That lane's haunted him a little bit.
Yeah, tough one to leave that 7 pin for Andy, just when he's looking for as many pins as he can to set the tone for Mike to respond to. It's going to have to be a spare attempt, and then the fill ball here in the 10th frame.
Right. So even though there was only 1 pin separating these two, it was a huge 1 pin when it comes to the 10th frame. Because now, with that, plus with that strike up, spare lets him keep that 1 pin. So, well, he needs all the count he can here.
All right, so this is the fill ball, the final roll of the match for Andy Rettig, and he'll post up a score. We'll tell you what it is, and Mike Johnson will know what it is too. And that's what a true pro does on his last roll of the match for a 217 for Andy Rettig. So Mike Johnson spins that ball. What does he need here?
He needs a strike. A strike will seal it right then and there. Other than that, he needs spare 9. A spare 9 to tie, spare strike to win. But a strike will seal it.
And there it is. Strike in the 10th frame to give Mike Johnson the victory over Andy Rettig right down to the end, which is exactly what we thought between the two outstanding bowlers. So it's 2 in a row, and once again now that's 4 matches, all won by Grand Island Mallwitz Lanes regulars. Will that continue? We'll find out about it. We'll check in with Andy Rettig, get his thoughts on the lane conditions and the challenge and how Mike Johnson's bowling, and we'll get you ready for match number 2. We're off and rolling week 2 on Grand Island. It's a great start. Mike Johnson keeps the streak alive. We're back right after this. Great match that comes right down to the 10th frame. Not much that I can say to you or ask you about when it comes right down to the end like that, and Mike noses you out by 15 pins or so.
Absolutely, he bowled great. He started to deal with a little bit of transition, and he did it well, and got through the match, bowled well.
You bowl here a decent amount, but you don't bowl here as much as Mike does. Mike's a regular here. So how much is an advantage or for him and maybe a disadvantage for you?
I don't think it's a disadvantage, really. We're both comfortable. He just came down to him making some better shots, and he did that today.
You were the first lefty. Did you see some advantages at all in that?
It should have helped me, but I'm standing here, so I don't know.
You couldn't have said it any better, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're always super solid here. Great bowling in qualifying. But as you know, you give Mike Johnson an opportunity to win in the 10th frame, and chances are it's not going to go our way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But good job today. Here's a consolation prize.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, to quote Andy Moran, he ran into a buzzsaw, which is Mike Johnson, Mike Buzzsaw Johnson, going to try to keep slicing his way through Beat the Champ bowlers. Match number 2 of the day, Mike versus Brandon Korczykowski. Stick around. That is next. Who was supposed to get Mike Johnson his box? It's Mike Johnson and Brandon Korczykowski. We have varying styles in lots of ways here in match number 2. Except we know Mike Johnson comes in on 2 wins in a row and bowling great right now, so that's the advantage that he has after 258 and 238 is 2 wins. And that 7-pin goes down, and it's a first frame strike for Mike Johnson. Brandon Korczykowski's making his 7th appearance here on Beat the Champ. 4 wins and 5 losses, the overall record for him.
One of our more colorful players.
I would, that is an understatement. That is an understatement.
First shot.
His bio sheets are some of the best fiction I read on a yearly basis.
I know, now he's not doing it anymore.
Well, I think we scared him off, so.
He went from 40 to 37. He went backwards.
So another lefty, that's interesting. You might have heard Andy Redick say he thought he would have an advantage, and it didn't play out that way, being a lefty in the last match. So we'll see if it's an advantage for Brandon.
It's true. And now Brandon plays lanes a little differently than Andy does. Andy's more down and in player, and as you'll see, Brandon is more of a power player, so he opens up the lanes a little bit more. So we'll play him a little differently yet, but I'm guessing that Andy's.
Oh, and that took a big hook
that
to the right.
That was just way too far into the dry.
Leaves a little double wood challenge there for Brandon Korczykowski.
You know, I was kind of thinking that Andy might have transition lanes a little bit for him, because there's always that fresh oil. You always have to move things around a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that was just a bad shot.
So pretty early, important spare pickup for Brandon Korczykowski in frame number 2. We do know that Brandon's from East Amherst. That's about all we generally can assume is true on his bio sheet. So.
Well, he's wrote that job a couple times, so I think that might be right.
Yeah, I'm staying far, far away from any occupation. I learned my lesson on that one. And Mike Johnson is just dialed in right now. Just kind of locked in, throwing it the same way, getting mostly the same results, getting the same fist pump out of him after every good strike. And you get your first look in this match of the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. We had Mike on the first show. We've got him on this show. We may have him on the third, but we know we're going to get him on the fourth when the Island Lanes All-Stars take over our show. Anyone that's ever driven across Grand Island is eligible and is generally a part of our fourth show here.
You know what's funny is I really haven't kept track of who's on whose team, but I don't think that the teams stay the same. I think they qualify every year and change the team up instead of having.
It's generally the same cast of characters.
It's the same people.
And that couldn't be more accurate when I say cast of characters.
But they don't have the team that's won the year before come back and defend their title.
Third frame for Brandon Korczykowski on lane 8.
Ooh.
And almost got some pin action to come take the 7 out, not quite.
Well, the important part for Brandon is that he keeps his head in it, and you know, it's kind of hard
Tends to
when
be one of our more emotional bowlers. Is that accurate?
When you hit the pocket and you get a bad result, like like 7-pin or something like that, and your opponent's just striking at you, it's hard to keep your head up. But there's 2 halves to the game, and we've seen it flip so many times. So you have to grind it out and try to start that string wherever you can.
Big powerful spare you saw there. Last time we got Brandon on the show was in September at Classic Lanes, where he lost to Tony Dolan. He did win 3 in a row at Manor 2 to qualify to move on to Classic before Tony beat him. that's a good one. That's a good strike for Brandon Korczykowski in the 4th frame. 3 in a row to get things started for Mike Johnson. 3 strikes in a row for the 47-year-old from right here in Grand Island. Impressive 235 average.
I mean, you're looking at averages here. Mike's showing a 235 average and Brandon's showing a 189. And that's, you know, that's a big difference. And at first I looked at it to say, like, is this one of Brandon's little jokes?
Yeah,
but,
that was my thought.
I know, I saw it.
But why would he joke about that?
Yeah, the truth, if you look at it, where he's bowling
Right.
bowling on tough lane conditions. So
Yeah.
it's good practice to bowl on the tough shot. He's bowling on a sports shot.
Sports shot at spare time.
At spare time, yeah.
Abbott lanes as well, so.
So it can be deceptive when you see an average like that, but he's not really exposing himself also to these, you know, these shootouts, so to speak, these high scoring conditions. So.
And that will be the first non-strike of this match for Mike Johnson. He'll have to play for the spare in frame number 5.
Again, that's exactly why you do not get down on yourself early in a match, because it can turn around at any time.
Look at that bowling ball.
It's cool, I like it.
Are there any colors in the rainbow not
It's like a
included on
pinwheel.
that one? Yeah, a little bit. All right, so Brandon, a little deep breath there to eye down lane number 8, knowing that he's got to start throwing some strikes
Right,
here.
so a double here cuts Mike's lead to 20 when, you know, Mike had, you know, he opened with the front 4. So that's how important it is to keep your head in it and just make good shots. There you go.
There you go, there's your double.
This looks like a good time to take a break. We'll be back with more Beat the Champ right after this. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
I felt like on that one, that was just a nice, solid, wasn't overpowering, just a good, terrific arm swing and motion, and the results showed it.
Well, that's a good observation because he changed his direction. Instead of opening the lane up and going from right to left and using the dry, he actually squared up and went to a ball that's straighter, and he's just playing it more at the pin. So good observation on your part, because he did change the way he was approaching the pocket.
And you saw a little bit of the power in that one, didn't you?
Yeah, you did. That was a great shot.
So that's 3 in a row for Brandon Korczykowski. So like you said, Sue, Mike opens with 4 strikes, spares. Meanwhile, Brandon's in the middle of 3 in a row. So
that 1-6 pin for Mike in the 5th frame after 4 perfect frames to 10.
Oh boy, how did that happen?
That's how this game is.
Yeah, that you got a little audible gasp out of the crowd
that was
here.
a perfect shot. Again, ball just missed the A pin. It's supposed to take it out, and it didn't. You know, that because of the advancements in the technology, that it's obviously helped people strike, but that's a technology non-strike because the ball missed the A pin.
Yeah. So that's 2 spares in a row for Mike.
Allowed this to be a tied match.
So despite that hot start that you can see on the board there, we're all tied. Trying to keep the Grand Island flavor rolling here today.
Great shot.
And there's Mike coming back with a strike in the 7th. And now Brandon working 3 in a row. We'll try to keep that streak alive.
Well, that was a big strike for Mike because he actually posted that strike up and enabled him to keep this match close to even, and then instead of going and or force him to strike to keep this match even, I should say. See, and that one got away. You notice the difference between him going at the pins and going away from the pins?
Yeah.
That sharp angle coming in is what makes it whip around those corner pins. So although it was a great shot to the pocket,
I think you can see that a little bit in the frustration that Brandon is showing in the look on his face. 3 Buffalo City team titles, 3 amateur bowler tour titles for Brandon Korczykowski. Number of sweeper titles in his career. Nice resume for Brandon Korczykowski.
big spare here.
And you know, you could almost tell that that as soon as it left his hands, that he kind of overthrew it a little bit. You know, again, you saw the frustration. We had the great shot of the frustration on his face from the one before. Is that
It's such an emotional.
You know, without being a mind reader, is that the carryover?
Yes, it's such an emotional sport. I mean, it's just so many times watching this game, participating in this game, that shot that you really truly needed didn't go, and you can't get it off your mind enough to make your spare. And it is so difficult to erase it and just shoot your spare.
Well,
he's in a different spot right here, you know. And instead of thinking, if only that would have struck, he needed to make the spare too.
Good bounce back for Brandon with a strike in the 8th, but now you've got a big door opener for Mike Johnson here as he approaches the 8th frame.
Yeah, he can go up 32 pins.
Yeah, that's a crucial point in this match. Can House Shoes take advantage in his home house? Not wearing house shoes here. We don't think. I think he remembered his today.
I think they live here.
Yeah, true. And a nice late fall gets him a double.
Huge, huge strike right there. Now it's late in the game, and that 32-pin lead is big.
Yeah, if nothing else, if you're a regular watching the show, we talk an awful lot about how just one frame, one roll can be the difference in spinning a match from one direction to the other.
And here's another observation. We had the sports shot for 2 months in a row, and it's all about hitting the pocket, scores, or low scores. Here you've got the high scores, but you still can't guarantee that strike. He missed his mark by just a little bit because he was going towards the pins. He went away. Still hit the pocket, which is what a house shot's going to do. Does not guarantee the strike. So you still have to play. You still have to be sharp, and you still have to play him right, even though it is a house shot.
So it was 3 in a row for Mike Johnson, and now Brandon will finish things out.
And that's going to be it for Brandon. Mike's gonna win another one.
Yep. So again, this was a tight match. It looking like it was going down the stretch, but that open frame for Brandon in the 7th is the difference in Mike Johnson winning his 3rd match in a row. A chance for him to sweep the week coming up in our final match of the day. We'll get you ready for that when Sunavoyski and I return to Mallwitz's Island Lanes. You're watching Beat the Champ. Another win for Mike Johnson, 266 to 216 over Brandon Korczykowski. You are, maybe of all the bowlers we have on the show, as emotional as any of them. Is that fair to say?
I guess I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I just don't want to do bad.
Right. So how do you try to battle that and control? Because there was a point in this match where things didn't go your way, and you just kind of had a look on your face like frustration.
It's more me just not executing. Mm-hmm. It's not. You can't blame the lane. You can't blame this. It's me not making a good shot.
Right. This can be a very emotional sport, can it?
Yeah, but after that frame's done, you just move on.
Right.
It's easy to say, but hard to do.
Yeah.
Especially when Mike's on fire, and you know you have to bring your best game to compete with him. He's a hell of a bowler.
Yeah, that's the other part of it, is the other guy has some say in all that too. Yep. Mike, try to make Mr. Emotional feel a little happier.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, man. You rock. You're one of my favorite bowlers in the area.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, dude, thanks for coming.
Always like coming out.
But like as you just said to me and Paul, you know, that one single game match goes by in a heartbeat. Like all of a sudden you start bowling and you're in the 7th frame and you're like, oh, what just happened?
It's scary out
Yeah,
here.
it's so fast.
You don't want to screw up when all these people are going to watch and laugh at you.
Tell anybody who's laughing at you,
great
tell them to
dude.
get themselves out here. And do
Right?
it, right?
Exactly. You try, you qualify, and see you later. You're on TV.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the sport. You never know.
Yeah, well, couldn't have said it better than Mike said. You're a great dude. We love having you on the show. But right now, the greater dude slightly is Mike Johnson, and he is duding it up pretty
well.
good. Can he do it again? Stick around. Match number 3 coming up next. Well, this time it's an opponent that Mike Johnson can look in the eyes and try to intimidate him to see if Mike can't win a 4th consecutive match and sweep week number 2 here at Island Lanes, but he's got quite the challenger in Jayson Schubbe. So first up to try to set some tone here is Mike Johnson, now working that 3-match winning streak. Got that one too far to the right.
Actually, he got that too far to the left.
Well, right, it hit to the right.
Oh,
but I know what you
okay,
mean.
I see what you mean. Yeah, it came up light. So I'm watching the ball roll over. We know how we've been talking about him going over the second arrow.
Yep.
Perfectly over the second arrow. So amazingly enough, the shot has not changed. They're still able to play the second arrow, but he stayed in the oil so much that the ball never read the lane. So that's how you got the light hit, because it never picked up. Wow,
Yeah.
this is an interesting
An
start.
open frame in the first.
We already knew this match was going to be interesting because Jayson, number one, has been bowling great. He's been on the show an awful lot. And he likes to throw urethane. So urethane, we've talked about it in the months that he has been on, changes the lane for the other players because it splashes the oil around and moves the oil around and messes up the other player's shot. So it's almost like an offense and a defense.
Really interesting. This is something we have not talked a lot about on the show. I'll assume because not a lot of guys use urethane.
Well, you do sacrifice some carry with urethane. It doesn't hit as far as as hard as the high technology balls. But for Jayson, he can make it work. He does not sacrifice carry at all. So combination of his ball speed, his hand position, the urethane doesn't hurt him, so his ability to use it hurts his opponent.
So Mike is going to know right away, if not within a couple of frames, that there's a urethane ball being used because it's going to change the conditions that he's dealing with.
He knows for sure. He knows, they knew going in because he used it in qualifying.
That's so interesting because there's not a lot of defense in this sport, right? We talk a lot about it. There really is there's maybe a little intimidation or whatever, but there really is no true defense in bowling except for this.
Yeah, it almost makes it that way because it changes the shot. If you're bowling a right-hander, it's gonna change their shot and kind of ruin their ball reaction. And urethane's kind of come back because, before I go to that, I don't know if he's changed balls he's trying to stay in the dry and not have to move into the oil, but obviously that ball's not reading it. I don't know if he's thinking ahead of what's going to happen or not. We'd have to find out from him.
For as consistently as Mike has been with the big scores that he's put up, this is a surprising start here. Open and now facing a challenging spare here. 2-7.
It's again one of those things that as the lanes change and you have to make a decision how you're going to adapt to that. And sometimes you make the right decision, sometimes you make the wrong decision.
Good pickup by Mike Johnson there. So a spare makes him feel a lot better than the other alternative might have been.
But so far he's come up light twice, so now he's got to do something. And if he moves a little bit right, is he going to hit the dry too fast and is it going to hook up high? So I think that's the dilemma we're looking at right now.
47 years old from right here in Grand Island is Mike Johnson.
But back to the urethane, it's come back because of the two-handers and because of the high rev rates. They throw the rev rate's so high that in order when the ball starts to hook too much, they've gone to urethane. So it's actually brought urethane back. And that's why we're seeing so much of it again.
So it hasn't really been very prominent lately, so you're telling me a lot of bowlers just aren't familiar with it? They haven't used it?
Well, I think we all
Is it
started
hard
with
to
it.
learn?
No, we all started with it, but technology went away from, advanced beyond it. after plastic balls, urethane was the next thing that came out, and that was considered high performance at the time. So then as the technology went along and the balls became particle balls and all the way the center of gravity and all the different things that have changed about the balls, urethane became kind of like what rubber used to be before plastic, and plastic was before urethane. But now it's made a resurgence.
So urethane was good, but better stuff came out, so
Right.
people stopped using urethane.
Right, urethane became spare balls and just not used for your first ball, but now it's back. Almost everybody has a urethane ball in their arsenal now, where our urethane balls were in our basements.
Maybe everybody's pulling them out of the basements to get them back out. Jayson Schubbe's making his 11th appearance here on Beat the Champ. 9 wins and 7 losses is his overall record. We saw him last month at the Rapids Bowling Center, where he won 2 and then lost to Jeremy Zimmerman, who then proceeded to rattle off a bunch of wins in a row. And now we're even up on open frames because Jayson misses that spare in the 3rd.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute.
Instant replay on Beat the Champ is brought to you by Transit Lanes and Keglers. Join us for bowling, food, and drinks.
Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
It is. That was an opportunity to go down there and spend a little time in Ellicottville and visit Salamanca. They do a nice job over there too. Everybody's so nice.
We went down for the Taste of Ellicottville during the summer, and that was a lot of fun. Little, not quite the intensity of Oktoberfest down there.
I must have missed the text message from you.
Maybe. It was a spur of the moment decision.
No, I keep saying that's one thing I want to do is make it down to Ellicottville. You know, it's a little cold. I don't really like to walk around the cold. I'm not a skier, so it's not as desirable to me in the wintertime as the summertime, but
Yeah,
I
well,
do want to get
again,
down
you
there.
North Townners can venture south of 20A if you choose to want to. We'll get you a map, and we'll get you, a couple of German Shepherds or Huskies to lead the way, for you.
Sled dog.
Sled dogs, right? Good strike in the 8th frame for Jayson Schubbe. Didn't need a sled dog to find where he needed that one to go.
Nope, and you look at this match, and Mike's down 10 now because he rung a 10 there in the 6th frame on lane 8, and or this could be a dead even match. I mean, these guys seem to have both figured it out at the exact same time, and now it's just going to be a matter of carry.
Ninth frame now for Jayson Schubbe. And that gets the 10 pin to go down for a double for Jayson Schubbe.
Well, I think Mike's going to have a little talk with his buddies here at Grand Island, that the other guy's getting the breaks.
It wasn't Mallwitz supposed to put a little crazy glue on the bottom of that 10 pin?
Big shot here. He's yet to strike on lane 8 this game.
And there you go.
I believe that was a ball change.
Think so?
I think so. Pretty sure. Still a 10-pin match, though.
That's a big double for Mike Johnson, 7 and 8.
Keeps him in it.
Yep. So we've had a little bit of everything: ball changes, equipment, you name it, lefties, righties. We've already got the whole gamut of strategy to play with here at Island Lanes. And I could hear, I don't know if you could, Mike, yell, "Come on!"
So,
I'm not sure he loved it when he threw it, but he got the results he wanted.
Here we are on a house shot, week 2, deep into transition right now, and these guys are really working hard, making ball changes, 2 different balls, because this is how it happens. The lanes break down different, no matter where you are. You have to transition with the lanes and how they break down, and how many times we see one lane different than the other. It's almost inevitable.
And even though this is Mike's 4th consecutive match, the lanes are much different than they were when he won his first at the end of last week's show.
Absolutely.
Come on.
Big strike. That's
Big
a
strike.
3 in a row run for Jayson Schubbe to start the 10th frame. Correction, that's 4 in a row for Jayson.
So what's crazy is if he throws all 3 here, he can shut Mike out. He is sitting with a 10-pin advantage.
Right down to the wire for second time in the last 3 matches here on this week's show. Janelle's been busy keeping us up to date right into that 10th frame. No, didn't get the 10 pin, so he doesn't get another strike. Every pin matters when you get this late in the match.
Wow.
So an important spare on the fill ball here for Jayson to post up a final score, and then Mike Johnson's going to know what he needs to do.
Not very different what happened to Mike in the 6th when he left the 10 pin.
And similar to our match that started off the day against Andy Redick that came right down to the 10th. Well, that
great
one
spare.
was a little tight, I think.
Come on, never a doubt.
I didn't have a doubt.
I thought it was a little tight. Apparently Jayson did not. Either that or he agrees with me, but he just doesn't want you to know it.
All right, so
final roll of the 10th frame. Well, you wanted that. You didn't get it.
No,
you didn't get the 4 pin.
No, it
but
does
it's a
matter.
2-14 posted up for Jayson Schubbe.
okay, so no matter what, Mike needs this first strike. No matter what.
All right,
At that
well,
point, it'll become about count, but it doesn't matter if this first one doesn't go down.
Talk about a little pressure here for keep the win streak alive. And he won't get it. That pin went sliding by the front of the 10, never spun around to take it out, and that means Jayson Schubbe is going to end Mike Johnson's run at 3 consecutive matches.
So Mike's going to get a week off and come back the 4th week.
Yeah, well, so Mike will get to rest up for a little while because we're going to get him back on our 4th show, the Island Lanes All-Star Challenge, and it's always good, always fun to have Mike on our show. Always fun to watch him bowl as well as he did. You know, and again, we'll talk to Mike in just a moment. You know, even that open in the first frame, did that set a little tone or a little element of doubt in the mind of things aren't going to be as easy? I don't know, we'll find out. We'll ask Mike, and we'll get Jayson's reaction to a clutch late match victory when Sue and I return. We're at Mallwitz's Island Lanes on Grand Island, and we're back on Beat the Champ right after this. Well, Mike Johnson's run comes to an end with a very clutch performance in the 10th frame by Jayson Schubbe. You had been bowling great, 1-3 in a row, and then that open frame in the first, does that just sneak that little doubt in your mind?
Unfortunately, it does. It was a slow start, and it just makes you squeeze a little extra down the stretch. But I'm proud of how he bowled, and it was a good run, and he's a great bowler. It's never easy out here. All these guys are good. But I'll take it, man. I'll take it.
How comfortable did you feel in winning those other matches? You put up big scores. You just seemed to be locked in.
I was very comfortable out of the gate, actually, yeah. But, you know, when you get a little pressure on you, that comfort goes away, and that's what happened to me there.
All right, so we pinned a new potential nickname on you. Do we like Buzzsaw better, or are we sticking with House Shoes?
It's House Shoes all the way,
All
man.
right,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not a buzzsaw, man.
All right, there you go. So, Mike, just in case you were wondering, now we know.
Yeah. House shoes, great bowling, great run. Always a pleasure to watch you bowl, even though you have my number lately. We'll see how that works out in a couple weeks.
I was gonna say we're gonna get Mike. We're getting Mike back in 2 weeks. Sue.
Jayson, one of the toughest things to do is to change your strategy midway through the game, which you had to do in order to win this, right?
I did, yeah. The whole qualifying, I bowled with that pitch black, and I threw the shot in the 4th frame, and I think it literally hooked at the arrows. So I had to put something down that would go longer down the lane. It worked to an extent. I left a couple of 10 pins, so I'm going to have to think of something for next week.
All right, well, that was something clutch because it's really hard to change mid-game like that when you know you only have one game match. So very good job. Obviously, it worked out for you, and we're going to see you next week and see what you decide to do.
All right, we get more Jayson Schubbe. We'll have that on next week's show. Sue and I will come up to wrap up another fun week here at Mallwitz's Island Lanes. More of Beat the Champ right after this. All right, I'm watching over here just in case, but first, give me a sense of what we saw here with Jayson coming up with a big win and ending the run for Mike Johnson.
Well, we saw what we pretty much always see. Even though it's a house shot, it's still transition. It's still bowlers having to adjust to a changing lane condition and kind of the momentum shifting from bowler to bowler. And although we saw great bowling out of Mike, you know, Jayson's been really, really hot, and he was able to figure it out and get to the forefront.
Yeah, so Jayson Schubbe will move on to next week's show. Steve Conklin, Rocket Rob Piccoli, Joe Doherty, the opponents trying to knock him off. Do you have something to say over here?
Oh, I just wanted to say how much fun it is to have Beat the Champ back here. And yesterday was Valentine's Day, so I thought that I would get Janelle a little something.
Oh.
Happy Valentine's Day. I hope that makes up for last October.
Oh, it definitely does. Thanks, Mike. I know you meant no harm by it.
Look at that, the romantic side of Mike Mallwitz. Very nicely done. We had a lot of fun here on this Valentine's Day weekend. We're going to have even more fun when we get more great bowling next week on Beat the Champ.